Esta conferencia comenzará a grabarse.
Perfect. Okay, now for your information, Francis, usually we divide our session in 3 blocks. The first one is the conceptual framework, and after that we give the floor to the attendants to allow us open discussion about what you said and all other contributions that other experts in the group could make. Okay. Today, just presenting today's session, today we will speak about the new supercluster organization models. Supercluster is one expression, as far as I know, that came from the Canadian model. Okay, 2 days ago, the Commissioner Thierry Breton announced the launch of the Euroclusters, and it's one interesting topic for today to discuss about those Euroclusters and what can make us stronger and more competitive. Okay. Anyway, the example for today is the France Water team. For that, we have with us Francis Bertrand. Welcome, Francis. And I'm giving you the floor immediately. So,
thank you.
The floor is yours.
Give me 1 second just to switch to the slideshow mode. And okay, that's the one I'm sharing. Is it okay on your side?
Yes, perfect.
Okay then. I would like just to emphasize one word about France Water Team, or 3 words, which are the one below the logo of competitiveness cluster. Just saying that is that to introduce that we've got something specific in our genes, which is to be a competitiveness cluster, which is to be part of the French policy about the, dealing with the cluster topics. Additional word, we are dedicated to water, so to the water industry, to make it brief. Next one is for me. Excuse me, just to see how I can switch to the next one. Okay. A quick look back to our history. Just for you to know, the competitiveness cluster history in France is dated back in 2005. Can remember that more or less. The cluster, the competitiveness cluster dealing with water, has been labelized by the government in 2010. And in 2013, one of them, the Pôle Eau, with its name at that time, now well known to the name of Aquavallée, under the name of Aquavallée, has decided to join its forces with a regional label, EA Eco Entreprise, to go abroad and to offer to the people they are coming and visiting abroad a brand to be aware, or be, let's say, to be more clear, to offer a clearer view of what they are. And at that time, the name of France Water Team has been launched. Then this tree is going a bit faster than that. January 2017, clusters DREAM and Hydrios have been joining this initiative, France Water Team, which was more or less an international club, to be honest. And the years 2018 and 19 have been, let's say, sealing the deal with the government and sealing the life of France Water Team, because 2 events have been occurring during these 2 years. First of all, 2018 was the year that, with the recent election of President Macron, Prime Minister has been given the mission to, let's say, clean the so-called National Council for Industry. And then it has been decided to labelize what has been calling or named a strategic committee, and 18 of them has been labelized. And within this list, For the very first time, one was dedicated to the water industry. This was something interesting for us, and this was something serious to be put on the table at that time, in the same year that we have been deciding to go one more time to get the label of competitiveness cluster. Because just for you to know, every certain amount of years, the government say, okay guys, enough for that time, we go to the next phase. If you want to be again and to gain again the label of competitiveness cluster, put a paper on the table, put proposal on the table. That time, the decision was made by the government to reduce the number of competitiveness cluster. And to do so, they've been put some threshold to be above, to be labelized again. Looking at ourselves, friends in DREAM, in Hydreos and Aquavalley have been deciding that to be stronger, they have to go together to the labelization process. And this is what they've been doing. It will be the case and the core of our explanation in the next slide, but they decided to go together with a new name, with a new organization. And that was the moment that France Water Team was born. February 2019, to be back on my timeline, we've been labelized and officially launched in September 2019. And the rest of the history will be written down in the coming years. To go ahead, just to refresh you with our services and figures, we are more or less a normal competitiveness cluster. It means that we've got normal missions, mainly the three you can see on that list. We are here to animate our community, something like 400 members, and within this long list, 400 businesses more or less, mainly SMEs, I have to say. You know the water industry, namely in France, it's led by two big players, two global players, I should say, but just below and just around, there is a bunch of SMEs going from the startup to no mid-sized, at least a very few mid-sized company, meaning more than 250 people in. So animation meaning working groups, journey to speak about a specific domain, and close to that, we help them to found, define, submit, manage their innovation proposals and innovation project. Just in addition to that, a competitiveness cluster is dedicated to innovation in its industry. And third mandatory mission is to push these SMEs with the new services, innovative services or innovative products to go international. Just for you to know, something like 20% of our membership are going international. We decided to add some additional mission to our portfolio. The first is what I've been calling the growing up. Sorry for the typos. I've been revising my slide again and again and again yesterday afternoon, but during a conference. So it means that I had to manage two things at a time, then the typos. Sorry for that. So the growing up system, the growing up mission is to say, well, we are able to get connected companies and academics to the funding for their innovation project. And so this mission is to get connected SMEs to funding for something else. That's the innovation. We've got something in the pipe of our services, namely something about training and the human capital, let's just say it in global words. And we've got decided to emphasize the way we are dealing with the European things, meaning that obviously we are helping our SMEs to get connected to the EC funding systems. Let me say that it's hard work because namely small SMEs are not very, very familiar with this kind of proposal, this kind of project, this kind of management of project and size of project. It's a real challenge in France, I have to say that. To one figure, during the course of H2020, on average, France has been missing something like in between 200 and 600 million euros a year. So the pressure has been put on every players on the field, including the competitiveness cluster, to go better with these figures to arrange the scene. Okay, so this is what we are doing mainly for the Europe mission, and that's all, more or less. This is namely the mission of the competitiveness cluster. When it becomes a bit different, and this is the entry point for the concept, and it's the concept that has been put on the table by someone else than us, of super meta cluster. We are an association, legally speaking, okay, and we are a federation of cluster. It means that precisely an SME cannot be directly a member of France Water Team. This SME has to be a member of one of the three founding clusters, AquaValley, DREAM or Isaios, to be an affiliated member of our federation. So it means that we are speaking about 500 members. This is the sum of the membership of our three founding members. This is a bit complicated to explain, but at the time that we've been deciding to put forward our candidacy for the next phase of the competitiveness cluster policy, the decision was made not to merge, legally merging our three clusters into only one. Why? Well, that's clear to understand, and it's clearer to say at that time, and it's still the case, the government is not the only public funding organization for a cluster. The regions have their word on that. And the decision was mainly made by the region not to merge, to keep legal persons active on their territories and manage yourself the way you want, but you have to deal with this statement. And then the decision was made to go to the candidacy with a federation instead of a merging of clusters. This is the complicated part. Let's go to the simple one. Looking at the governance, we only have one board, 24 persons to be clear on that point, and 3/3 and 1/3 is coming from the governing board of each of the founding members, to be in line with the decision, to be connected and to be consistent, to be clear. Okay, last word about this structure. I think it will open questions. Fees. Affiliated members cannot pay the fee to us, they pay the fee to the cluster, which are paying for the mutual services we are offering to everyone. I don't want to skip the final words about the associated members. Namely, today we are a group of 3 clusters managing this federation. So today, only 3 members on board. The future will be that some friends of us clustered who have been signing an agreement of partnership with one of these 3 clusters should become what we call an associated member. Why? It's because mainly the 3 founding members are not covering the whole nation. They are covering 4 out of 13 regions on the continental part of France. They have members and friends in the other regions, so let's say the decision or the option has been written down to open the door to additional members, with the ambition, to be honest and crystal clear on that, with the ambition to offer the services of a competitiveness cluster to every company across the nation, the country. Next one. Quick on that slide, don't want to go in the details, but we have been selecting and analyzing our context to see we've been analyzing the water industry to see which market we will look at and which stakes are on the table today and for the coming years. What I've been putting in bold, if you can see this difference on the slide, is the stakes in the industry, for example, who can be, let's say, destabilized by the coronavirus situation we are suffering from. This matrix is the way we've been analyzing our situation. This is the basement of our activity. When we look at something, when we decide to go ahead on one thematic, we refer to that matrix. No additional word on that, it's just to see that we are serious guys. Few words about the focus on Europe. As I've been mentioning before, we are supporting our members. Okay, that's quite normal. We are, and we can be members of projects as many clusters across Europe, meaning that today we have 2 candidacy on the INNOSUB call, crossing the fingers to go ahead for the next phase. But what I would like to end with is this initiative which has been called 2 years ago, the Water Smart Territories. You know, this is one of the thematic platforms for industrial modernization. This is more or less a copy and paste of the JRC webpage about us. So these are our words on their page. This is a F3 and Smart Specialization Strategy page. And friends from Centre Val de Loire in France, you know, one of these blue regions connected with the Friesland and the Aragon region, have decided to commit and to join the forces to, let's say, be connected and to get connected with the other clusters, some of the clusters in Europe, which are dealing with water. This is, on my views, nothing more than a pipe for projects. This is the goal of this thematic platform concept, if you refer to the JRC and the Commission orientation on that. So I think that we're more or less online. And one of the INNOSUB calls, the INNOSUB proposal we've been submitting early April is nothing more than a fruit of this initiative. And you can see that we are now something like, I can remember something a bit more than 15 regions. And our position is to say we have keywords and key topics to look at, hot topics, and you've got them on the top of the page, boosting the resilient infrastructures. I don't know for the other countries, but in France, something like 20% of the water you put on the pipe doesn't come out in a house. It means, or in an industry. It means that we are lacking and we are losing on average 20% of the water. Digitalization buzzwords, I know, but it's a real word for our industry and I guess for every industry in Europe today. So it means that we have to handle that dimension. Yes, with all of the keywords about big data and artificial intelligence, but on top of that, I think that we should probably look carefully about how our SMEs will handle this transition, because the questions are they well trained to handle that questions? Do they know that they can probably set up new benefit and new products from the data they are handling or producing? Are they enough aware of that to fight against probably newcomers on that field? And so far and so on. So the questions are very various, and there is a long list on that. Circular economy, well, I hope that this summer won't be the same as the 2 last ones, but scarcity of water is probably our future. Sorry for deepening your mind, but this is more or less the promise of the future, one negative one. And we have to handle that question very carefully. It means that reusing water, for example, should and will be a clear option for everyone. We have to handle that. It's starting with agriculture, but let's look at the future when this issue will come out in the cities, for example. Okay. No words about the multi-stakeholder governance. We will open a debate on that, and it will last too much for our session today. I don't want to go deeper on the keywords, but the goals are the goals that you've been looking at while I was speaking. ICT is probably one of the main one, and this is one of the drivers of the INUSUP proposal we've been submitting recently, and it will be probably the case for several other ones in the future. More or less, I think this is everything I have to say as an introduction to our case. And yes, this is the end. So I think, Antonio, we are switching to the phase number 2 of your agenda.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup, Frances. No, there is no other speaker for today. Usually we spend 20 minutes, and that's what we have done. So you are the center of the discussion. In fact, the idea of superclusters or that kind of bigger organization that clusters is the focus for today. I think that your example has been very good. Okay, congratulations for what you are doing. Now we open the floor for questions coming from the rest of the attendants. Who is the first? If not, I will make my own questions. Okay. So I found the model very, very interesting. I didn't know about this possibility to really create a legal umbrella, and I found that there will be some challenges, for example, to do the same here in Spain. So the French government when evaluating the clusters, I understand that is taking in consideration all the capacities of the 3 current members, not just the capacity of the legal entity that is the umbrella for them.
The answer is no. The government say the option of federation was not in their mind. We have been forcing them to accept that situation. And they just said, okay for the federation, but it has to act and it has to be active as a competitiveness cluster. We don't want to buy an empty box, they told us. So in behind these slides and behind this description of François team, you have to keep in mind that we have on the table something like a team of 10 people, and we organized ourselves to offer these services as a competitiveness cluster. I'm not sure I'm precisely answering your question, Antonio.
No, that's very good answer. So you have 10 staff of 10 people at the global level, okay? And are there people assigned to every one of the clusters also, apart from those 10 people?
That's the right question. To be crystal clear on that, I am the only one to be an extra number on the list of the staff of the cluster group. To rephrase that, or to say it in a different angle, just consider that the list of 10 people you will see, the amount of 10 full-time dedicated to François team will be made of people coming or giving a part of their time from their position within the 3 clusters. Because there is something I didn't say, is that there is no more money that the amount, the previous amount given to the cluster. So it means we have to manage this group of 4 with the money of 3, more or less. So the decision was made to say to the people within the teams, you and you will be spending time to François team. And then the amount of your time plus the amount of their time will make a capacity of 10 full-time.
Okay. And globally speaking, how many staff do you have between the 3 clusters? I mean, there are more staff, I understand.
Mm-hmm. France Water Team is organized in a set of, let's say, 7 groups, 7 teams, virtual teams, but teams anyway. Animation, Project Factory, Europe International, what is missing? Grow of the SMEs. It makes 5. 6 is made of communication and marketing, and number 7 is all the administrative stuff. For each of these teams, there is a group of 3 people, 1 leader and 2 coming from the 2 other clusters. One rule there is, as we have 3 founding members, all team is made of 3 people coming each from one of the cluster. And then you make the multiplication. 3 by 7 makes 21 names and 7 leaders.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Dolors.
I know it looks like a factory, as we used to say. It's a pity to look like a gas plant, as we are a water cluster.
Dolors, could you make your question now? I see your question in the chat.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, just I was wondering if you think that could be possible to create a super cluster at European level. I mean, involving different clusters from different European countries, focused on one topic. This is my question, first question. And the second one, what will be then the legal framework for this organization?
It's a question to both Antonio and I.
No, just for you.
Just for me.
You decide.
Okay.
I will
okay.
answer later.
Question for me. Okay, let's be bright. I am questioning myself about this option to set up a European cluster, because I try to know a bit more from the Commission about the coming joint cluster initiative. And so this is one point. Another one is to say that, yes, that's good to be the water family, and Water Smart Territory is more or less the extension across Europe of the water family. But when you come in front of the Commission people and say, we are grouping ourselves within the water industry, they say, okay, that's good. And if you come to the Commission with the idea of joining people from the water industry, plus the digitalization industry, the ICT industry, plus the mining, or let's say one of the water user industry, the Commission is smiling. They are very, very interesting in that. And you should probably know that the keywords from their speaking is, we want a new value chains. We want to get connected different ecosystems. So on my point of view is that I think that legally speaking, we can create a super cluster in Europe. The question is with which keywords? Only one vertical industry, or should it be composite one, let's to say that word. And to answer your second question about which legal form, to be honest, yet I don't know. I can imagine that, and we probably may look after notion or a capacity or the idea of a European association. I know that there is something existing for this. Can't refresh my mind with this initiative, but I can imagine that, yeah, that's the point. I've been working for the French Geological Survey for a decade, and I know that they are members of the European Association of the Surveys, the Geological Survey across Europe. So it means that we can make an European association, and then made of what we want. It can be an association of moral person, like non-physical one, like associations. I guess we can do that, but in which composition and in which precisely legal form has to be analyzed. But if you want my mind on that, my serious option is to say we should consider to organize ourselves. Yes, a supercluster. It's quite a brand new notion in Europe, and we try to be visible through the ECCP website, and they are considering us as a meta cluster, and today we have to wait for the new version of the website to appear on that. So it's quite new. And to go back to my answer, to my main element of answer, I think we should think about enabling cluster of different industry, just to say that the industry 1 plus the industry 2 and the industry 3 will make new value chains to address one of these 14 ecosystems, because you are probably aware of this. When we have been looking at water in these ecosystems, we are everywhere, so we are nowhere. So it means that for probably several industries, they have to get connected to other to make an ecosystem. I've been a bit long on that, but this is my thought.
No, it's perfect. Okay, my point of view. First of all, the European Cluster Alliance is a European association, legally constituted, okay? As a non-profit, I don't remember in the Belgian law the exact name, okay? But summarizing, we are an international association with non-profit characteristics, okay? And that is not so complex to create. The real point, there are some consideration in my mind, okay, from my personal point of view, okay, not official of the European Cluster Alliance. First of all, I really like the idea of the joint cluster initiatives. I think that this is the one very important road. But the difference is when you create a real supercluster or Eurocluster, you are not, or in my mind, you should not be working only for a project. You should be working for a global strategy of development of your focus. Okay, whatever it is, could be water, could be whatever. Okay, so the difference in my mind is I'm just joining for a project or something that the Commission or whoever is paying me for developing during some years, or I am really creating one collaborative structure that will dedicate full time a lot of people to develop one serious strategy. That's the difference in my mind, okay? So for me, we should promote this kind of super or Euro clusters, okay? And they make sense because until now there were big barriers, meaning communication, languages, but precisely the digital tools, these tools by the conference enable the possibility to make a strong trust relationships between different countries, different clusters. Okay, so for me it's very easy now. Should be easy. Okay, and that is what we are doing at the level of the European Cluster Alliance. But for your information, I have we created the European Cluster Alliance as the association of national network of clusters, but I am receiving a lot of expression of interest of different networks from Europe telling us we are interested in joining you, okay, as sectoral, or as you say, focus network of European clusters. That seems that it makes sense, okay? So I would propose to change a little the focus of the joint cluster initiatives, more not so much on concrete projects and more on strategic plans at the European level. I don't know what is in the mind of the Commission, okay, but I think that is the difference between one consortia and one organization of clusters, okay? So for me, it makes sense. The problem is that up until now, we, as even the national networks, and for sure the European network, as far as I know, we cannot be part of some clusters calls. We cannot go to the calls. We are not recognized as possible participants, and that's very important because we are investing our own money, okay, for sure. But for some kind of activities, it's very important the public funding, and so we are losing opportunities in my mind. Okay, thank you.
Antonio, I wasn't very clear with the statement from Commissioner Breton about this notion of urban cluster. Do you think it has been starting thinking about something like supercluster or urban clusters? You are more familiar with these discussions nowadays than I am, so your light will be interesting.
It was said that these Euroclusters are related to the joint cluster initiatives, okay? As you know, I don't know what would be the definition of the new joint cluster initiatives. That is open now, as far as I know, from the ULAS team, and we have here Marek. I don't know if Marek could comment on that or not. Perhaps it's too soon, okay? But
yeah, Antonio, if I may, I mean,
for sure.
This is it's joint cluster initiatives indeed, and this is something which we, as expressed by the Commissioner, want to bring together in order to strengthen industrial ecosystems, so vertical, at the same time trying to build the link between ecosystems. So consortia was the probably of entities, and here I just wonder what you are, Antonio, saying, that you are not allowed to go for the calls because the cluster organizations would be the main entity to go for this, but it is exactly to bring together entities from different clusters like ICT and water, and build interlinkages in value chains. I saw Dolores put that it should be eventually each supply chain would be a consortium project. Yes, might be. I would rather say value chain across different ecosystems, which would strengthen at the same time the vertical ecosystem. But I would rather think what you are saying about strategy. We would like to avoid building the projects which are aiming at building strategies. We want to be operational. It could incubate further strategic development and creating something which would be longer sustainable at EU level, creating the EU special purpose vehicle, or you could have the different legal possibilities, entities you mentioned, for example, but it could incubate this kind of actions. But with at this very moment, with a modest amount of money we have, no, it's not. I mean, still we need to work on this. For the next year, it will be just 15 million euro, and so it's rather to incubate and seed this kind of collaboration than really to massively finance. The massive finance could come from different sources, as you know, from the huge amount of money in recovery package. And then it's how this which would go from the European single market. It's rather for incubation, but as said, cluster initiative, so bringing together different actors from different clusters across EU, be it from more or less developed clusters, making as much spillovers and diffusion of technologies and collaboration possible across EU. Yeah? But everything is being prepared conceptually, so any input from your side is still very valuable. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Marek.
Thank you, Marek.
Aurora, you were saying, remember the freedom to compete, and everyone. Could you comment on that?
Yeah, someone would be able to say there is no competition because everyone is in one only organization, a legal organization. I don't think we need well, I already speak as if I was a member of a cluster. I don't think we need to add more obligations, more accounting, more entities, because the European Alliance already exists. The clusters already are part of that. So when these opportunities come to make good, whatever it is, strategy, concrete things, etc., a consortia within these existing organizations, which are the different clusters of each of the activities that all are part of the European Alliance, could perfectly go for. The point is always to be together, to align ideas, to have the culture of sharing.
Thank you.
Just a comment on that, just an additional comment or an additional statement to my words before. We didn't decide to become a super cluster or EU cluster or meta cluster, choose the word you want. It's an accident if we are that, if we look like that, because the only decision we made is to go for funding at the national level without merging and legally merging our three clusters. So the result is looking like a meta cluster or super cluster, but it wasn't the goal or the objective.
Okay, I need to clarify something. Okay, sorry, Aurora, because probably we haven't said that in any previous session. Inside the cluster, we are not, or we try not to reduce the competitiveness of our members. It's totally the contrary. We want to have a very competitive market. Okay, because based on the competition, sometimes or every time, the capacity of the companies grows. Okay, the capacity to go for markets and so on. What we are trying to do, to working for, is for helping them to compete in bigger markets in global level, or to innovate in a way that they can grow. Okay, that's very important to say. And because at this, it will be the same at the European level. Okay, we don't want to create the kind of agreements that make the market monopolistic agreements. That's not the way we work. Okay, that's very important to say in my mind. And it could be that the European Cluster Alliance could be an umbrella, a legal umbrella for some initiatives. Why not? It's a possibility, and we could think about that. Okay. But the point is that if the difference in my mind, this is from Antonio Novo, yes, Antonio Novo, not the European Cluster Alliance, because we have not spoken about that. I need to be clear on this point. Okay, just my opinion. It's a very big difference between support projects and support the strategic reflection, the strategic perspective, okay? And it's very, very important to have this kind of strategic perspective, okay? And it takes a lot of efforts, staff, people, meetings, because you cannot create a strategy based only in one person or two or three. Far more difficult even at the European level. You need to study what is the situation. You need data. You need to ask the different states, different members, and you need to make the reflection work, the groups, the work teams. You need a lot of things to do. Okay, so if there are only support for concrete projects, for sure the project could be very good, and I am sure that the Commission support excellent projects, but there will be a lack of common strategy from the bottom-up perspective, because I know that the Commission is creating a top-down strategy. It's very clear. Okay, but what is the most specific value of the clusters approach? Precisely that we are connected with the
Antonio, if I may enter into this, actually, you have at this very moment at the regional bottom-up level the smart specialization strategies which should be developed, and these are the strategies at regional level where clusters, as you know, should be very much integrated. So, I mean, we couldn't distinguish. I mean, this is another story, because you know, in one of the countries when I worked in Regio, there were 200 different strategies, and they were not connected to each other. So you can multiply different strategies if they are not. You have many people, different groups making strategies. If you have the region has strategy, national level has strategies which aligns with regional strategies. The clusters should align as well to the strategies, and they co-create the strategies of regional level. So it's not distinguished, but specific strategy for class. Because then you need to have operations which actually support the building strategies, and not strategies building by itself. It doesn't. It proliferates different strategies which have no operational impact, and they are all on the shelf only, and this shows the experience.
May I, good morning everybody, may I remind you that you have also the European strategic, European technological platform, so maybe we can look at that and see. But in different fields, there are already some entities that are looking a little bit far away. In different areas. For instance, media, for instance, telecommunications, for instance, industry, and so on.
So, Vasco, do you propose to link them with us, or for the clusters at the European level to follow their strategy? Is that the proposal?
Well, I think, at least in Portugal, I try to organize groups with companies and universities that are linked with those technological platforms, and so to bring into this small group a discussion about strategic ideas, and after we try to put them inside of those technological platforms, because at this moment I think they are very, very close with the Commission, and sometimes they produce white papers, and in order to lead a little bit the future. But probably, I don't know, maybe Marek could say something more about this.
But
there are plenty of groups, working groups of this kind. There are working groups in Horizon on missions, cancer. You know, you mentioned this technology, plenty of different groups developing different strategies, and I think we should be very much pragmatic in the clusters as you are entrepreneurs, and I would, first of all, the very strategic dimension is given. Huh? So it's rather creating the roadmap for achieving the goals of the strategies, and the three very simple. I mean, simple but difficult in implementing. More digital, more greener, and more resilient. And here, creating the concrete roadmap. Someone here wrote key disruptive projects that address common and specific strategies to increase Europe competitivity. Maybe an idea, but definitely leading into in each of your fields, like in water, like what kind of, you mentioned data used by water, which is not exploited at all as much as it could be. So you might build roadmaps, concrete roadmaps, in order to achieve goals of the strategy, to make more water management digitalized, for example, or the IoT, Internet of Things in processes, and the roadmap between actors in the consortia to make it happen. But building strategy for strategy, I think it's too theoretical, and it gives really nothing but just lots of waste of time of people.
Probably I need to clarify that that's not the way we work, okay? At least in my experience of something like 16 years working on the clusters, no? I totally understand what you say, Marek. You don't build a strategy to put it in the shelf, okay? But that's, I think, not usually the what we do, okay? And I understand also that there is a very high level strategy for coming from the European Union, okay? But that very high level strategy must be put in place with other kind of strategies, okay? And I totally understand the approach, the theoretical approach through the SF3, for example, okay? But I really
I mean, it was never as smart specialization strategies were never thought to be theoretical, no, and they are not. Unless if they are, then they are not smart specialization strategies. No, if, for example, in your region, US clusters are not integrated into the designing strategy, then there is something wrong in smart specialization strategies, because they are meant to be a bottom up, really. And then we bottom up meets top down with what is being done at EU level, and then it's filtered as well and aligned at national level, and then it should meet the regional bottom up level. And I will not refer to the specific countries, because I don't want to be, but there are countries which take for granted what is, for example, priorities of Horizon 2020. 3/4 of the money dedicated to smart growth in the European Regional Development Fund were exactly like copy paste from Horizon 2020. So it's simply, in effect, it never was smart specialization strategy, because it was taken from Horizon 2020 in order to build smart specialization strategies in the country. And then 1/4 of this money was only from really genuine regional smart specialization strategies. And Antonio, I don't need to name the country. I mean, yeah. So what I just want to avoid is to give a notion of we need to have the strategies for money to lose for building strategies for Euro super clusters, which will be an entity over. I think it should grow organically, and for example, if the three is the federation of water clusters in France created, it emerged as well a bit from the need, and if we will see that this is organically growing, I think it will be, then we could create this organically growing Euroclusters, but not artificially making it through like calling for Eurocluster on electronics, for example.
I totally agree.
I hope it will develop organically.
Absolutely. When we enter into the game of and the group of water smart territories, I had the idea to come out of this initiative with a set and a family of project proposals. Nothing more than this. Being a club, it's good to know, it's good for friends, it's good to exchange views, but my mind was there to set up the scene and set up the landscape, the grouping to come out with projects. And one part of this goal has been reached as we have been submitting an INNOSUB proposal. That's good. Absolutely not enough, but for each of the keywords and the key thematics which are in the front line of water smart territories, we hope to put down and to submit proposal. So that's our goal. And this is why I'm saying that I share your views, because building super meta EU clusters just to build up some additional clusters will be a lose of time and money. Enabling groups for something specific, a specific target, a thematic target, as part of the recovery plan thematics, as part of the main trends or main options, would be useful, because none of us have extra time to build up empty buildings, so to say.
I'm not sure. If we would have taken that approach, the European Cluster Alliance will not exist.
Mm-hmm.
If we would just focus on concrete projects, we will not be speaking today.
Okay, but that's
was bottom up, no? It wasn't coming from Brussels.
I agree with that, Marek. I totally understand that. I totally understand that the point is not to create artificial through calls, artificial empty association. I totally agree with that. I see the point clearly. Okay, no discussion on that. But the point is, if there are some natural or bottom-up initiatives, they merit support.
Mm-hmm.
It's an open question, okay? But
it is. We have to be pragmatic, and being pragmatic means that we have to target some goals, some targets, some practical targets, meaning having an impact for our members, because amongst everything, as we are natively clusters, we may have to serve our members, first of all. To be honest, I'm someone who is pragmatic. So if there is a request or need to build up something with a useful goal, so why not? But I don't want to run this competition today just to build up something, because as of today, I see no need today. But if something is occurring, if something is coming to me, someone is coming to me to say, hey, what about this and this? So why not? But today, not yet. I'm not ready for that. I just wanted to mention something about the Urban Cluster Alliance and the clusters. I always see this as there is 2 points of view on that. The ECU as France Cluster is a supporting organization for the cluster to help them with their life of cluster. And all of us are clusters dedicated to one or more industries. So it means that we have to be supported in our life of cluster, and we have to be supported in our life of thematic actors and thematic players. So there's two different things. I get connected to ZINAE in Aragon just because we are connected to water question, and I am a member of France Cluster because France Cluster is helping me with my life of cluster, to see how I can set up new services, to see how I can set up my EU strategy, something which can be shared with clusters in different industries. So this is two different point of views. And in that way, having an alliance of the cluster supporting association is probably a need, because you build up that alliance, and it should probably be useful to open this channel of discussion we can have every day, and to discuss with Marek from the Commission as well.
Okay, it's time to close. Thank you. Merci beaucoup, Francis. Merci beaucoup, Marek. Wonderful to speak with you.
You're welcome. Just I would like to draw your attention. There was this skills agenda yesterday adopted by the Commission, and there are clusters mentioned as well for being a very integrated part of the vocational excellence centers. This is our proposal to the Council as a recommendation of the Council for Member States, that the clusters are integrated part of the vocational excellence. So tomorrow you will be talking about social, but I will just, you can Google, it was published yesterday. There's staff working document, and so I recommend to read it.
Please, Marek, because I was yesterday looking for it and I didn't find it. Could be that now it's. Could you share the link?
Oh yes, please.
Because that's very good news. And I have another proposal for you, Marek, or for Lula, or whichever. Or could we organize a session just to present this agenda?
Mm-hmm.
Would be wonderful. Sorry. Okay, I see that Nina has said it. Yeah, we have it in the chat. So thank you, and we will study it carefully. Thank you. Thank you, Marek. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. I hope I've been clear, and I'm happy to share views on that. And I will join this group and the interesting coming sessions. But before closing, I didn't have the time to get this agenda within the chat. As there is a way to catch up with this, Antonio.
Yes, you have it in the chat. It's published by Nina. But anyway, I will send to you the agenda for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Marek. Thank you, Francis. Thank you, everybody. Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Happy to talk.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. It was very good.